We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to.
Welcome to the NBZ podcast.
Everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was.
NBZ.
I just told you. That's who I think I am.
I'm a terrible person who's come to believe unforgivable things.
Welcome back for another retro episode 15 of the NBZ podcast. This episode is with Guy Dietrich, and Guy is a regular at Buckley's who wanted to interview me on my own podcast. So I let him. It was fun. Buckle up.
I'll do the intro whenever you give me like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. Love the music. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast at Buckley's. I'm Guy Dietrich. I hope you enjoy our program. Buckley's in Belltown at Battery and 2nd. The best place after work or play, no better place to stay than Buckley's. Today we will discuss conspiracy theories. The great American novelist John Updike once said, "America is a vast conspiracy to make you happy." Even during my lifetime, incidents such as Roswell, the JFK Kennedy assassination, 9/11, the lunar landings, and many more things that many people take for granted have been questioned by skeptics and non-believers and defended by people vociferously. There's many more. Today we'll discuss these theories with someone also who makes me happy, Mr. Nick Burke. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Guy.
I always like to say, where's the best place to start? At the beginning.
Okay.
In my lifetime, the very first conspiracy theory I was made aware of were the events at Roswell, the Roswell incident. From your side of the table, what did you learn early and what do you believe later about what happened at Roswell?
Okay. So as I was growing up, not early in my life, not being a conspiracy theorist, but just hearing about conspiracy theories amongst people. There was an alien landing at Roswell. Obviously, you see pictures of Arizona with green little men and stuff, and okay, that was said to happen. There's no proof of it. You hear a little bit about the story. Okay, they said it was a alien landing. Then they said it was a weather balloon. There's all sorts of cover-ups, and it's my first glimpse into government cover-ups and them changing the story and whatnot. Now, I believe that an alien craft definitely crashed at Roswell. There was for sure a cover-up, and there's all sorts of pieces of that puzzle that I've come across and dug into a little bit. Roswell, for me, wasn't a conspiracy theory that I dug into super deep, because I think it's been so long that people have dug it to death. And it's in the conspiracy theory area, it's like a stake in the ground. For sure that happened. Obviously, it will be denied forever, but let's move on and talk about some of those conspiracies.
Nick, do you believe that the Roswell incident was the beginning of aliens or the beginning of alienation from government? The psychology of conspiracy theory suggests that many of the contrarian viewpoints and conspiracy theories are based upon political cynicism or distrust and alienation from government. I tend to agree. I think the first thing of a casualty of Roswell was the truth. They went out of their way to spread disinformation. Moving on to another issue. We'll go through a few of these, and then we'll talk in general about the effects.
Well, I just want to pause for 1 second because you said alienation from government. I think the one thing that needs to be established, as far as from my side of the table, is that the number one secret that the government is keeping from the people is the existence of extraterrestrials. So above atom bombs, above any other thing that you could think of that would be high in the level of the government's radar, alien extraterrestrial existence is number one. So they will do anything to make sure that is that line is kept that no aliens exist.
That requires a vast conspiracy. over generations. How do you explain the possibility of that when we live in a time where, with the internet, where a secret can't be kept for 5 minutes, let alone for 5 decades?
It's kept among. So there are people that have talked. There are government officials and people of power that have said, yes, I know for sure that aliens exist, and I've been privy to this information. But the high level of people that no, and obviously no one will admit within the government that they do in a official manner, because they want to keep that secret. But the way that secrets are kept within high level government is a whole nother podcast for another day. But people who of trust in high level are kept quiet via that club, I would say.
So it isn't just distrust at the level of the masses, of the individual, like me or you sitting at a bar stool saying I don't trust the government. You think the government is not trustworthy.
Correct. If the government was a friend that you maybe lied to 3 or 4 times and then did some things in the back end, and you look at that actions as a friend, you would be like, I don't want to be friends with this person anymore.
What is the most compelling evidence to support your argument?
Of what?
The existence of aliens that are being protected by the governments and various societies of
compelling evidence. There's no compelling evidence that I could say like this. It's look here, and this is what it is. But it's the insurmountable amount of anomalies and things that have happened, and areas of the of our U.S. that are blocked off and untouchable, secret military bases. Obviously, the most well-known of those are Area 51 and Groom Lake. Things go on there that no one can talk about, no one can see. You can't become within 25 miles of it. People say they camp out and look, and they see these things happening. You can, obviously, then we report that we can see lights at nighttime. Okay, then we back it up 5 more miles so that you can't see anymore. And it's just it's a long list of not fully credible information that piles up to something to say like, okay, you can't deny this massive amount of testimony and video and all these things that.
Along the same lines, do you believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone?
Oh, jumping around. No, definitely not. Definitely, the JFK assassination is something that is I have not nailed. I don't have anything solidified on it, but I know that I sure as hell don't believe in a magic bullet that bounces around and turns corners and hits people in all different directions. That's preposterous. You could never think that that's actually true.
What constitutes sufficient evidence to buttress your points of what in your mind, other than your own opinion,
right,
or that what you have balanced using the Ben Franklin approach, where pluses and minuses? Mm-hmm. What in your mind would constitute sufficient evidence
of any one of those
of
claims?
any one of these, any claims of conspiracy? If I came to you and I was trying to alter your way of thinking, what could I do to change your mind? What constitutes evidence?
So, in certain cases where questions arise about a said happening, so you can take for instance, let's just take so an official story comes out about an incident, right? So this happened, and the government says this X, Y, Z, and then the conspiracy crew jumps on and says, no, that's not true. V, W, Y. This is what happened. And then, so I automatically, at that point, will look at the conspiracy side and say, okay, does your argument make sense? Does it hold water? Is there ever going to be enough evidence for the conspiracy theory to break the official story? No, because the official story is the official story. So I don't need to be told that I'm right. I just say, okay, logically in my mind, from what I've been told, this picture that they're painting kind of makes sense to me.
I try to hold this thought, that I try to never hold an opinion so strongly or dearly that it will not change my mind when presented with different evidence.
Right.
Can you give me an instance of when you've changed your mind on one of the areas we're talking about today?
For sure. So I recently So I worked at a country club, and during the O.J. Simpson trial, I was in Connecticut, and the place where the glove was tested was tested at a facility in New Haven, where the DNA on the glove they said that it wasn't his, but it was very close to his. This is like somewhat inside information because I talked to one of the lab technicians that did the testing. So in my mind, I thought, and also the person's mind that tested it, thought it was OJ's son that did the killing. And so that's the belief that I held for a long time, that it wasn't OJ, but OJ's son did it.
Okay.
Recently, a 5-part 30 for 30 series, so 7 hours of video from ESPN 30 for 30 came out about the OJ Simpson trial, and it was by far the best documentary I've ever seen in my entire life. They set the tone of the era. They set the situation, the witness testimony, evidence, and by watching that after 7 hours, I was like, for sure, this guy's guilty as he's done.
So the information you received about the New Haven test lab turned out to be erroneous.
Not erroneous, because he did it. It was his DNA. They just probably tested it wrong. So it was close to his, but it was his. But the idea that and in that time, my mother and I wasn't a conspiracy theorist at that point, so I was just listening to the information around me. My mom and all the other black community people around me were like, no, he didn't do. Nobody stabs it. Right. No black person stabs anybody 17 times. My mother would say that over and over again. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. And now, obviously, after I see the evidence, he's crazy.
Okay. How do you separate the wheat from the chaff? In other words, I could go onto the internet anytime today, YouTube, and pick out any one of the Illuminati theories, JFK, Pizzagate, whatever,
right? And
I could find compelling arguments on both sides,
right,
for either side of the conspiratorial argument. How do you, as a citizen, as a responsible thinking individual,
right,
break that apart?
So I liken it to, because I take in so much information about this stuff all the time, and I have strong distrust for official stories in government and things that happen. I've come across so much information on both sides about these things. I liken it to a pot of soup with big chunks of potatoes and chicken and things and when that soup gets going, it turns. It goes over and over. But at the end, certain things rise to the top. It's like a foam at the top. That's where I live, with the things that I will see over and over again. And at the top is the truth, because those are the things that are kind of like bubbling. If you've seen them a couple times, and yep, okay, this is the part that is it's a high likely that the things that are kind of in the world that are keep going and keep popping up are truth. Now you put that up against whatever is being said, and that's how you kind of define what's in or what's out, in my mind.
Is Bin Laden alive?
I don't think so. All that I think was created within our own government. It's a fear. Like, the biggest terrorist in this whole situation is this the rectangle that we look at every day. That's the fear creator, and Bin Laden is just a character that they created so that we could justify what we do. Obviously, weapons of mass destruction. It's been laid out. Like, we didn't really need to go there.
I think that is a stronger argument, maybe in its entirety, than perhaps these anecdotal smaller issues like did the plane hit the Pentagon, chemtrails. In the larger sense, there's by their own admission, the CIA in the 60s planned and implanted agents within all the major news networks. There was a government sponsored, a government-funded, taxpayer-funded effort to put news people to control the media. If they were thinking of that in the pre-internet age of the 1960s, imagine what the capabilities are today. And when you go home today and you look at the snippets of any news organization, you're not seeing something entirely different from that. There's not a difference between the Fox News or any other, ox you want to grind. I think there's an old line that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And this goes back to my question a few minutes ago. How do you sort all this out, to use your soup analogy, without getting just thoroughly confused? The average person, Nick, doesn't have the time or the intellectual effort to delve into this. So how do you arrive at the truth?
I don't have a truth.
So we're going to take a pause here for a moment.
Yeah, we're at 16 minutes.
And we're going to have a cup of coffee. Come back in a few minutes. Thank you. This is Breakfast at Buckley's. I hope you're enjoying the program. Come down for breakfast. Mitch is working behind the bar, and the regular crowd will be shuffling in. All right, we're back after. Well, welcome back, everyone. We're back after a short break to get a club soda and shake hands and say hello to our friends over at the bar at Buckley's in Belltown. Get yourself together, come down and have breakfast with all of us here later this morning. Right before we broke, Nick and I agreed that in the second segment we would touch upon the aspect of truth. What is truth? As Nick, who's my friend, knows, I've come out here over 2 or 3 years, and we barb, and we spar, and we go back and forth on many different things. So I have said to Nick a few times under my breath, as I've walked away, when he's told me about aliens in the Antarctic or about chemtrails, that, Nick, you wouldn't know the truth of it, bit you in the ass. You could pick any one of these areas, Nick.
Yeah.
And you pick one.
Okay.
And you go on your side of the table. I'll go on my side of the table. The gloves off.
Okay.
Because it didn't seem to work, me being nice the first part of the show.
It works. It
now,
works.
of course, I'm only kidding.
All right.
So now just pick one, and I'll just take the viewpoint, and we'll see where your facts or my facts collide with the truth.
Okay. Well, the easiest and most definitive one, conspiracy theory, I guess you want to call it, is, in my mind, 9/11 subset the Pentagon plane crashing into the Pentagon.
Great.
So of 9/11, the official story states that a 747 jetliner crashed into the side of the Pentagon, and that's what caused the damage that hit the Pentagon on that day. So my piece or my stance on this, which I'm pretty much stated in truth, like to me. So we touched on truth on the beginning before we got to the break, and I never got to finish the answer. The answer is that the truth is only defined by the recipient. So facts are rumors until you experience them, and then they're truth to you. So everybody agree that these things are truth within the environment, but to you, they're only truth until you experience them. So when my evidence of video and pictures says to me that the truth is that plane, that type of plane and size plane, did not hit the Pentagon on that day. That's my fact, and that's what I'm going with.
Well, you've picked a difficult one for me, Nick, because I tend to believe you, and I agree with you on a few aspects of that incident. There's no doubt that a 757's wingspan of about 137 feet should have left marks and indicators on the windows, let's say to the north and south of where it breached to build the Pentagon. Under the laws of physics, however, when you take a plane, let's say that's 37,000 pounds, that is flying at almost the supersonic level, it is possible that the wings had evaporated and had just kind of basically vaporized prior to hitting the building. It's possible. It is also hard for me to dispute seeing large engine turbine fans lying in front or adjacent to the Pentagon that appear to be from a jetliner. Also, how do we account for the people on the plane? Did they fly them to some Air Force base and spirit them away? Did those people and their grieving families not exist?
So
I think if I was a detective, I would argue that sometimes the simplest answer is the correct answer. Did people on the Beltway see the airplane fly into the Pentagon? A lot of people did. How do you refute their argument?
So, okay, let's just dial it back, because I don't want to get into how, why, and what. I'm just disputing the fact that the plane that they said hit the Pentagon didn't hit the Pentagon. And once we end there, then we can worry about the other things. But number one is, did the plane hit where it hit? So in the people's, so your argument was that people's testimony that said they saw it and they saw something go over, they could have saw something fly over their head and headed toward the Pentagon. Was it a 757 or 747 jetliner with that wingspan you said? I don't know because I wasn't there, but I know how people could. I know that there's witness testimony that is sometimes refuted because, yeah, something did fly over your head, but was it a jet? Was it that jetliner flying at that speed? Maybe not. Maybe it was, but I don't think so because of the evidence that said. Now, as far as people are concerned on the plane, again, I don't have answers for that.
So your argument to prove your argument to establish that a plane didn't hit the Pentagon is to refute and disregard any other evidence that someone has said that it did hit the Pentagon. So
No.
in other words, a person sitting in their Chevrolet Impala on 395 on their way to work saw a jetliner fly because they're right next to Washington Reagan Airport. They know what a jetliner looks like.
Exactly.
Now, to help your point, I saw a news clip live at the time by a guy named Jamie McIntyre, who was a longtime ABC correspondent in D.C. I lived there. He said there is no indication or debris of an aircraft at the scene.
There's plenty of people saying that. And if you look at any of the video or the pictures or anything of that day, you cannot find anything to say that the jetliner hit the building. There's nothing to say that. So, in my mind, people can see something. I'm sure something loud flew over your head low speed, and you said the brain automatically puts in the pieces, breaches the sound, and thing going over your head flying. You only know certain things fly over your head. It was a jetliner. Okay, cool. It was so fast I didn't see it, but yeah, maybe it's probably a jetliner.
What do you think hit it?
Don't know. That's not my point. That's not my argument. I don't know what hit it. Because once I start to dabble in that, I discredit myself by saying that I have all these other answers for these. So I'm just saying that it wasn't this. The rest of the story I can't make up because then I look, loony. I'm just refuting one thing. Because once you focus on one thing and you establish that, then you can get into the other pieces of the argument. So and all that is just, again, in the pot. It's bubbling around. I don't have answers for that.
I don't disagree with you enough on that one.
Okay, pick another one.
Pick another one.
Okay.
Your turn.
Okay.
Pick another one.
Let's see. This one's going to be a lot more difficult for me to defend because I definitely have zero evidence on this end. But I love to talk about the idea of Antarctica. Antarctica, that's the bubbling, trending pieces of information right now. Antarctica. So the theory says that underneath the ice in Antarctica, there is a civilization down there that recently the government, or let's say people are discovering. They've dug down maybe a mile or up below the ice, and they're finding a civilization. Some people call it Atlantis. There's a whole story behind what's down there. And so a lot of people are like, no, that's crazy. And some people are like, well, that's
There's a whole story of what is down there.
Yeah. Again, this is something.
I don't recall seeing a single scintilla of evidence or like even a picture, whether it's photoshopped, photobombed, of anything that would support the existence of aliens under Antarctica.
Zero.
You've told me they drill a hole and there's stories that there are people
It's just a
down
narrative.
there.
You're right. I have nothing.
What is the difference between that and like The Hobbit? Did J.R. Tolkien go down there and lead the crew?
That's a good question.
To dig the hole.
That's a good question.
I'm willing.
Agartha. I don't know. Yeah, there's so many.
I'm willing to believe most anything, but
Yeah.
I need a little bit of something.
Yeah, there's no
to
pictures.
believe.
There's nothing. There is no except there's no real evidence that I could say that this is true, except the fact that some of the people that I trust within my community were talking about this, and then they said they were about to get scooped by someone else releasing the information ahead of them, so they put out their article about Antarctica, and then a couple hours later, another Sun Star type of publication put out some information on that same story.
There must be some basis. There had to be something must have happened. There must have been
Exactly.
a
So
bubble that came up.
We
out of a
don't
drill.
know. Nobody knows. But to me, this kind of stuff is the most interesting because it's the plausible story is out there. And again, this is something that I'm building on. I have nothing to hold it down with. But that's the most fun one. Because think about what if we actually did find this stuff down there, and supposedly the narrative of that conspiracy theory is that it was a civilization that had they were really messing around with genetics, so they found people with tails, they found woolly mammoths, they found all sorts. They were using the technology poorly, and then they were kind of screwing things up.
Well, there's no telling really what you could find under the surface of Antarctica. Within the last hundreds of millions of years, it's gone from green to frozen to green to frozen, and there's vast amounts of oil under there, which suggests plants, not just ice, etc. So there's no telling what could be there, but I don't necessarily believe that it would be aliens.
Okay.
Let's go to another one.
Sure. What do you got? You have some on your list there at the end.
Let's talk a little bit about little green men and UFOs. That's one of my favorites. As a youngster, I had the opportunity to meet a guy named Allen Hynek, who was a really famous, ufologist who wrote many early books on this. He lived in our hometown, and I went to his lectures and actually saw a picture book of all his early Polaroids UFOs. So I tend to be a believer. As life has gone by, once again, because of the absence of evidence, I've become more skeptical about my original belief that, there are UFOs and aliens. And I've now gone to a more of a measured approach.
Okay.
What makes you believe, if you do, that there are aircraft or spacecraft, controlled by sentient beings, observing, living, and bounding around the Earth?
Well, if you say it the last way you just said it, aircraft in the air controlled by sentient beings, that could be us. So a lot of the story is that a lot of things we see out there is human military technology that is crafted and put up there, and it's us that it's humans that are flying those things. But yes, I do believe that extraterrestrials, off-planet civilizations have visited us and are here doing kind of just looking around,
How about alien abductions?
Okay, so I have to fall back on what I call the narrative. So the narrative is, in all the things that I searched through, this is what the people are saying. And then out of all those people that are talking, I filter down into what I think is the truth of that. The narrative in this situation is that extraterrestrials were coming here and doing tests on humans and doing a lot of butt probing, whatever. And then our government stepped in and said, "Hey, listen, stop! Don't do that. You can take a few goats or sheep, whatever, but just don't, stop doing that all the time." They had struck a deal with them, basically. Yeah. Some of the abductions were.
Where the hell did that meeting take place? I'd like to know where the meeting where humans made a deal with aliens to back off from slaughtering our pigs and cows.
We might have to go for break and come back. That's a big long story.
It would be that would be quite the. I wish I could cover that.
We got to pay the sponsors first.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll say our goodbyes.
All right.
And our hellos. And thank you once again for coming to Buckley's Breakfast. We'll see you shortly.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Well, we're back, and welcome back to the closing segment. Speaking of abductions, we're about to be abducted here ourselves. Before we go any further, Nick, I want to thank you very much for coming out here early on a Sunday morning, this early in your marriage. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to tell you how much I look forward to talking to you about all of these things. It's hard for me to disagree without being disagreeable, and I just love our chats. And
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that. If you'd like to reach Nick, you can reach out to Nick at NB, as in boy, EEZZY, at either Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. If you'd like to harass me or harangue me on any issue, my name is Guy Dietrich, GUYDETRICK at hotmail.com. Right. As we close, Nick, we didn't cover everything today. We didn't get really into the argumentative level that I was hoping for. Over the next few weeks, our executive producer, JT, who's done a wonderful job this morning here at Buckley's in Belltown, we'll be in touch, and I'd like to do this again.
All right, we can do it.
Thank you very much for
you,
your time today.
Cheers. Welcome, and a pleasure to be on the show again.
Have a good day.
Thank you.